features that turn people off. Relationships are hard, especially in the beginning. You meet someone you think you like, and at first you're hopeful. But it doesn't take long for things to turn sideways. In fact, one researcher at Stanford found that more than 60% of relationships don't survive the first year. If your love life has been plagued by one unhappy ending after the other, it's time to start thinking about why. Sure, it's possible that your radar just has a penchant for picking the wrong mates, but it's also possible that you're doing something that's turning people off. It's a hard truth, and not something anyone really wants to face, but it could be the answer. By taking a real look at yourself, you just might find that you unknowingly possess one of these traits that are known to send people packing. I talked with several psychologists and relationship experts to find out just what features people most definitely aren't looking for. These 21 qualities might be preventing you from being your best self. So are they also holding you back from finding your perfect match? Emotional instability. Many people say they're looking for someone who isn't afraid to show their emotions, but Dr. Iris Packler, licensed psychologist and clinical director of New Harmony Psychological Associates, says too much emotion is a problem, too. She names emotional instability as a trait that quickly turns many people off. Emotional instability is usually displayed as an intense emotional experience, followed by behavior that leads to interpersonal issues, such as lashing out verbally, physically, or through manipulations. Such dramatic displays can feel controlling and push people away, she explained. Lacking boundaries. We've all met a person who seems to have no respect for personal space. It's annoying, right? Psychologist, a psychoanalyst Susan Collett, Ph.D., says this a feature that many people don't find attractive. She mentions things like getting too close, gesticulating frequently, bumping into people, and just plain getting in others' faces. In my experience, people who behave in these ways are often unaware of how they are affecting those around them. It is possible for a person to become more self-aware and to modulate and control these behaviors, she said. Do you find people tend to take a few steps back from you during conversations? This may be something you're doing without even knowing it. Dating and relationship coach, therapist and author Amy Sherman says people who are often loud and obnoxious also fall into this category. You are unaware of the impact you have on others or how people are reacting to you when you are overly loud, she warned. This cluelessness does not bridge any emotional connections between people. Rudeness. It's common sense that being rude to a date isn't going to get you very far, but being rude to others doesn't gain you any points, either. Jessica Small, licensed marriage and family therapist and dating coach, says rudeness to people around you can be a big turnoff to potential partners. This can be anything from being rude to a server, to not holding open a door for the people behind you. Men especially tend to seek out kindness in their partner as a desirable characteristic and will turn away from perceived rudeness, she explained. Self-absorption. It's not all about you all the time, and that's especially true on dates, explains licensed marriage and family therapist and dating coach Jessica Small. Talking only about yourself and not asking your date any questions is a huge turn off. This is something my dating clients complain about often when sharing bad dates. It's imperative to keep the conversation reciprocal, in order to not come off as self-involved, she said. Being a bore. It's not always easy to find things to say on a date, especially if you're nervous, but clamping down and not being a part of the conversation can be a turn-off. Answering questions with 1 to 2 words, or not being willing to share some of the exciting or adventurous things you've done in your life can create a perception of nice but boring, said licensed marriage and family therapist and dating coach Jessica Small. It's important to make a memorable impression on your dates by giving enough information so the other person has some understanding of who you are and what you like to do. Being too accommodating. It seems like being accommodating would be a good trait, right? Turns out it's not, at least if you're doling it out in big doses, according to Rhonda Milrad, founder and chief relationship advisor of Relationup.com. You may be a caretaker or someone who doesn't have strong preferences, but when your date keeps hearing whatever you want, or I don't care, there can be growing concern that you don't have a strong sense of yourself. It is important for a partner to feel that you have a strong identity and aren't just a vacuous pushover. Entitlement. A bit of self-confidence can be an attractive feature, but too much of it works in just the opposite way, says Dr. James Huba, licensed marriage and family therapist. Everyone is unique and special in some important way, but persons who have learned to think that the world owes them often convey this belief to others who may wish for more humility and empathy in the relationship, he explained. Listening to your girlfriends first. There's something to be said for the solidarity of women and the value of female friendships. It's one of the biggest benefits of being a woman, if you ask me. But your man needs to know that his opinion counts, too. It's hard for males to compete with the wisdom of your girlfriends, and they would rather leave you than have to be in competition with them, warned Drive Renee Carr. Listening too much to your girlfriends communicates to him that you value their input more than his and that you trust them more. Of course, you should still listen to your besties, but he needs to know that you care about what he thinks, too. Lack of purpose or direction. It's important to have a sense of where you want your life to go, more for yourself than for anyone else. But a lack of direction can also be detrimental to possible relationships. When someone lacks a strong sense of purpose or vision for his or her life, it's difficult to imagine what kind of future we might have by aligning ourselves with that individual, said Chanel Dokun, founder of LifePlan NYC. For example, if we want to live a vibrant, thriving life, how can we be sure that the other person's idea of the good life at all matches our own? Will our rhythms be in sync? Will our goals carry us in a compatible direction? We're not sure, and that uncertainty turns us off big time as our brains quite literally try to shut down any unpredictability or lack of categorization. On the flip side, a person who has a clear purpose for why they exist and a plan to match that purpose is incredibly attractive. We feel swept up in the current of passion and adventure that lies ahead for that individual and, as a result of our partnership, our own dynamic future that awaits. Lack of empathy. There's a lot to be said for understanding someone else's feelings, or at least trying to. A huge turn-off in most relationships is a lack of empathy, said dating and relationships coach, mentor and author, Rosalind Sadaka, CLC. Empathy is the quality of being able to put yourself in your partner's shoes and see the world from their perspective. Relationship partners who have empathy are more compassionate and accepting when things go awry. They try to understand what you were feeling, what motivated you, and why you behaved as you did. Empathetic partners are more likely to forgive, move on and let go of past hurts, she explained. Those who don't show empathetic behavior are usually more self-righteous, self-absorbed and less likely to apologize or take responsibility for their behavior. They make for more difficult relationship partners and demonstrate less emotional maturity as well. Being too clingy. Hey, we get it. You're in a new relationship and you want to be around that person all the time. It's a natural part of the honeymoon phase we hear so much about. But it's easy to jump from being attentive to crossing the line, and if that line gets crossed too often, it may send people running in the other direction. One of the biggest turn-offs for people is being too clingy or needy in relationships, says Dr. A.J. Marsden, Assistant Professor of Human Services and Psychology at Beacon College. Overly clingy and dependent people can end up pushing a more mentally and securely attached individual away. She warns that clingy behavior includes constantly asking questions like, "What's wrong?" and "Are you mad?" Dr. Renee Carr agrees that clinginess often causes problems early on in a relationship. Although most men like to be needed, being needy is completely different and a turn-off. A healthy man wants a woman who is confident and wants versus needs him in her life, she said. It is important to recognize the cause of one's needy behavior. This can be best accomplished with